Guys, I don't know what there is to say. We lost. We're here to get our feelings out this morning and me to get over my hangover. Um, Trending in the AM. It starts in 30 seconds, guys.
Holding gets around in front.
And Philadelphia has it.
And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. Yes, we are live. Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, and turn those notifications on. And the comments are already rolling in. Make sure you drop your comments on the DSM Media YouTube or Facebook page. Your thoughts, your comments, but most importantly, your feelings of heartbreak as our Philadelphia Eagles lose to the Kansas City Chiefs 38-35 in Super Bowl 57 last night. Guys, I don't know what there is to say. It is what it is. Heartbroken, as Chris Devlin says. Thank God I got to go to work still, and there's no way around that. Good morning, Big Ed. I'm sorry that's just the way the way it went down for you guys yesterday. Mark, good morning. I am Phil Stifel. We got Jason Voorhees sitting here next to me. Heartbreak, Jason. I mean, there's so much that we could say. We're going to talk about the game specifically, but you know, I don't know as a Philadelphia sports fan how much more heartbreak I could take. First, the Phillies lose the World Series, then the Union lose the World Cup or the MLS Cup, and now the Eagles lose the freaking Super Bowl. This is literally since mid-September to now. This is heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak. And man, George saying the fumble. I mean, it's going to go way under the radars. How big of a play it was. It was just a unfortunate mistake, but one that made such a big deal, and people aren't going to talk about it. Doc Rivers, is he our savior? Man, I don't know. Guys, it's tough. There's so many points that we could pinpoint to last night's loss, but it's heartbreak. You get your emotions up, Jason. You get yourself hyped, and to be let down the way we did, I mean, you got to give a tip of the cap to the Kansas City Chiefs because they played their hearts out yesterday, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, you use the word heartbreak. I don't know if there's a better word. Pain. Disappointment. We had our expectations, super high, and rightfully so. I mean, we've all, followed this team all season. Most people would agree, even other teams' fans, that the Eagles had on paper the best roster this season. And I think we had the better roster going into the game. But unfortunately, that's why the games are played. And we were not the better team on the field. Obviously, we lost to the better team. And, I'm not going to be like the 49ers fans and sit here and cry, or the 49ers players and make excuses, because first and foremost, we didn't deserve to lose the game. And George brings up a great point. Like, honestly, the Hurts fumble was the turning point. I'm not sitting here ready to repeat that. I'm not prepared to sit here and say that Hurts was the reason the team lost. I think that blame goes to the defense, more specifically the pass rush, that was non-existent. But that Hurts fumble killed them. I mean,
what do we say for what have we been taught since we were 5 years old? You lose a turnover battle, you lose the game. And for all the talk about Patrick Mahomes and the turnovers, the Chiefs made no turnovers. The Eagles created no turnovers on defense, and Jalen Hurts made the one key mistake. I know everyone. I know everybody's going to want to talk about the penalty and the holding call that was or wasn't. Look, I mean, you can't let yourself get in that position. The defense did not stop the Chiefs all day long. They got no pressure on Patrick Mahomes. The top sack team in the last 20, 30 years did not touch Mahomes. The defense played terribly, but also the offense. The second half, what did we put up? We scored one touchdown in the second half. When you control the clock the way the Eagles did throughout the game, they ran 19 more plays. I mean, it is what it is. There's so many little nuances of what happened yesterday that caused or could have been a cause to the loss. The defense, the lack of the pass rush, the fumble, special teams. They said it on Post Game Live last night. Starting Aaron Sipos, who hasn't punted a ball in a game in 2 months, and you have him out there and he shanks the one punt that leads to the Kadarius Toney return that sets up a score. All the little things we talk about. But for all these excuses that we can make, what's the one thing, Jason, I talked about for the last 2 weeks leading up to this game? We're going up against Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Travis Kelce. Top 5 all-time at their given spots in NFL. Top 5 coach for Andy Reid. Maybe eventually a top 5 quarterback of Patrick Mahomes, already top 10. And Travis Kelce, number 1 or 2 tight end. I said it all week. We're going up against greats, all-time greats. And that we shouldn't be so overconfident. So it comes down to the better team won. The team with maybe not as much overall talent, but the elite of the elite beat us. And again, it's a tip of the cap to them. They did not. I said it nonstop, that if the Chiefs were down 14, the Chiefs were never going to be out of a game. And it's exactly how it played out last night. So we could point fingers here, there, and we will, and we're going to continue to point these fingers. But it is what it is. The better team won. The team that was better prepared won yesterday. And I really, truly believe that statement. The team that was better prepared for the big moment. You saw some of the youthfulness of Nick Sirianni and that coaching staff come out in the game and in the preparation and the game plan yesterday. And that's the way it played out, Jason.
I mean, absolutely. I think there's no doubt in my mind that Nick Sirianni was outcoached. I mean, and listen, I love Nick Sirianni.
I agree with this statement with George. We had already lost the game by the time the penalty. I agree. I agree with that massively.
So listen, I agree with that. But we can admit that it sucks that Hurts didn't have a final chance to go down the field. I mean, had that penalty not happened, we don't know how the outcome would have happened. We don't. Yeah. But I mean,
before that penalty, I put out a tweet a few minutes before that penalty. I'm like, there's 5 minutes left in this game. Whatever, we'll get one more chance, and it's going to come down to another Hurts comeback. And literally, at 5 minutes left in the game, at the start of that last drive of the Chiefs, people were all over my social media saying they're not going to get the ball back. I'm like, that's some negative energy there. But then that's the way exactly how it played out.
I mean, James Bradbury was interviewed after the game, and he took the L. He said, but like I said, it just sucks that the refs couldn't keep the flag from going out.
I mean, it's
painful. It's painful.
Let's dive into the play. Was it a penalty or not? I mean, technically on the letter of the law, it was a penalty. He grabbed the guy's jersey. And James Bradbury is going to get paid. And James Bradbury had a freaking insanely amazing season this year for the Eagles. But it was a penalty. The most inopportune moment. But the talk about should the refs keep the flag, the laundry in their pocket in that moment? And that's the question. Was it so egregious of a flag? I mean, was there like 9 penalties throughout the whole game yesterday, including that one? There weren't many calls yesterday. So when you're letting them play all game long, there's plenty of hand checking and fighting between the wide receivers all game long. Were the refs in the wrong for calling the game one way all game long, and then in the crux of the game, throwing that flag? I think that's really what the conversation should be. The consistency of what the refs did there.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the inconsistency of reffing in general in the NFL, and that's just another example. Mm-hmm. I mean, listen, we could debate it. All I'm saying is, as a fan, it sucks to have your season end and not be able to see at least an opportunity. Look, if they had the opportunity and they go down and they end up 4 and out and they don't score and the Chiefs win, I would be able to feel differently about the game. I feel like it's almost like we just didn't get the opportunity at the most inopportune time. I mean, like I said, it was a penalty. I'm not making an excuse. That's not why they lost the game. So don't get my thoughts misconstrued. I'm just frustrated. This show is supposed to be not just about talking about the game. It's about airing out our feelings. And as a fan, I'm frustrated. I'm hurt because I thought the Eagles had a very good chance to win the game.
We'll have all week of doing shows to really criticize this or that. This is more just a look. There was a chance yesterday afternoon. I'm sitting there thinking, I might not even do a show this morning, win or lose, just because I know there's going to be just a lot of frustrations or excitement depending on how the game come out. And with us losing, there's a lot of upset. There's hard feelings right now. I mean, you can blame the penalty, but we can blame. I mean, we've been extremely critical, and then over the course of the year, less and less critical about Jonathan Gannon. And then all the Jonathan Gannon haters out there are going to be all over him this week. Wishing him well, hoping he goes. I know there's the rumors that Shane Steichen's gone. It's not officially official, but Schefter reported it. But then they dropped it last night in the game that Jonathan Gannon might be gone also to Arizona to be their head coach. There's going to be so many people jumping all over Jonathan Gannon. Was Jonathan Gannon's scheme finally caught up to him because the Chiefs were the best team we played all year? Jonathan Gannon came up really small, and his defense, which was one of the best in football, came up really small. Throughout the game, we 11 minutes time of possession difference, 19 more plays on offense, and yet somehow we weren't able to score more points. It just doesn't that to me just doesn't make sense when you can have that much time of possession and that many more plays. That's on the defense. It's on Jonathan Gannon. It's on the players on that defensive side. TJ Edwards didn't play a great game because you're white. I don't even think I heard his name once. The defensive line, no pressure. Hassan Reddick, I mean, just 3 steps behind Mahomes all game long. It was really frustrating there.
I mean, I saw a couple times where Hassan Reddick had Mahomes in his sights, like literally inches from Mahomes, and Mahomes was able to get away every single time. You got to tip your cap to Mahomes. Like we can harp about how bad the defense played, and they were terrible. We can harp about Jonathan Gannon and his schemes and not having his guys in the right positions. He was horrible. But, dude, Pat Mahomes, like, was he really hurt? Because, like, those plays where I saw him running, like, honestly, I don't think
his ankle was bummed. There's no doubt about it. That ankle was messed up a little bit.
He must have been on serious drugs because there's no way anybody in a normal capacity could be able to run like that on a high ankle sprain. I mean, he ran full tilt. Like, it was almost like watching him not hurt. And it's the Super Bowl, the biggest stage. Mm-hmm. And, like I said, that last play.
The biggest stage, the greats come out to play. And Patrick Mahomes, I said it this week, that he was already one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And last night solidified that. George saying here, let's see. Again, do you think throwing Fangio into the equation? I think it's, I must have missed this all week. I did not even know about the Fangio situation till yesterday. Did you even hear about that till yesterday, Jason? No. The Fangio was signed to a 2-week contract to help prepare. Now, I read an article this morning, George, that Fangio was brought in to help Steichen on offense, prepare for the Chiefs' defense. That he didn't really have too much. And now I don't know, how much influence he had on the defensive side of things, but most of his role the last 2 weeks was in the offensive room, helping break down the Chiefs' defense. But really, why would you bring in somebody for 2 weeks like that to just complicate matters? Yeah, he was consultant all year, but he was given an official contract and role for the 2 weeks, which is weird because he had already committed to going to the Dolphins. So I don't know. It's crazy. Kill defensively after the Well, it's not fireable, but I mean, I don't know, Jason. Do you think bringing in Fangio again for 2 weeks like that complicates matters? mixes it up. Did we really need it? You're rolling as well as the Eagles were. Why bring in another guy? I don't know.
At the end of the day, I think
and this is exactly what I'm trying to say. Cram new wrinkles. More. Sometimes when I make soup at my pizza shop, less ingredients is more. If I try to throw 4 or 5 more, things in, it complicates and you miss out some of the flavors. All
right, can I give you an example of why I think this is overblown? Because I don't think coaching, at the end of the day, yes, coaches deserve the blame. They always take more of the blame than they deserve. It's the players. Phil, in 2017, the Eagles defense, Jim Schwartz had a terrible game plan. Yeah. We gave up 600 yards of offense. But guess what happened? A player made a play. BG had a strip sack. Mm-hmm. I did not see one defensive player last night make a play. And that to me is not on Jonathan Gannon. That's on the players. Our players did not step up in the big game. They didn't.
I think it's very fair.
And that's where I think most of the blame belongs. And how can you have a defensive line that leads the league in sacks almost at an historical level?
Yeah.
Not even get a hurry. They didn't even have a hurry.
I mean,
that to me is unacceptable.
Honestly, it's kind of confusing how the defensive line could be so great all year and then come up. Look, we can break it down like maybe, I criticized the linebackers a lot this year, more than other people. I got told whatever. They didn't have a great game. I criticized, Marcus, Epps coming into this year. He made some okay plays, some bad plays, whatever. But that defensive line was the bread and butter of this team. Like, it literally makes zero sense that they came up so small in such a big moment.
Is there a world where
I don't know. I'm trying to ignore the comments, man.
Is there a world where we can actually admit that maybe the Eagles didn't play a lot of good talent, and that's the reason why they shined?
Maybe. I want to bring up that. I want to bring up this comment here, the overconfidence. And I saw somebody on Twitter, Jason, last night after the game. I mean, maybe I had a few drinks. Maybe I'm imagining this. I don't remember who posted it, but somebody posted something that maybe the inexperience in the way and the swagger of Nick Sirianni and how that translates to the team brought an overconfidence to this team. And that's what, like, he didn't have them grounded enough this week, getting ready for the game. We talked about it, the new hype, the new style of coaching, the bravado of Nick Sirianni, and that got us to this point for sure. But is there something to the fact that we were just overconfident because of Nick Sirianni? And I know Jalen Hurts never gets too high, never gets too low emotionally, but could that have been a part? Somebody tweeted a reporter tweeted it out last night. Maybe it had something to do. He wasn't criticizing Nick Sirianni, but should we be criticizing Nick Sirianni? Because look, Gannon, Clay, the assistants, you can criticize them. The players, you can criticize them, but should you criticize the guy at the top that's setting the tone right from the beginning?
Absolutely. I mean, he deserves criticism. I mean, we lost the game. He was outcoached by Andy Reid.
Oh, George, you were the one that actually tweeted that out last night? I was tired from work. I had a few drinks after work. I don't know. I just remember seeing it, and it was the last thing I thought about before I went to bed. Was it Nick Sirianni and his fault? I just called you a reporter too, George, so you must be a reporter for the Eagles now. I don't know. I really think there is something to that this was a learning experience. We talked about it for 2 weeks now. The very young, inexperienced team that this Eagles have coaching and with Jalen Hurts. And would it come back? This was – he didn't even tweet it. He DM'd me. Dude, I was so tired last night, man. I've been tired all week. This is a learning experience for them. Hopefully, Nick Sirianni learns from this Super Bowl and how it played out and the experience to know that there's got to be a better balance in his approach to lead. The way he leads this team works for 17 regular season games in the preseason and stuff like that. maybe it's not necessarily 100% the way to go about it come Super Bowl Sunday.
I mean, I think there's a lot to that, but I think the fact that they went up against Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes trumps that, because I think if you're playing, a team of like a lesser quarterback or a lesser coach, we win that game. I realistically, I think at the end of the day, you said it early in the week when we did 2 weeks leading up to this, but early this week, I specifically remember you said maybe we need to pump the brakes. I believe it might have been on the Fear Show. What is your fears? And
I said it almost every show for 2 weeks, basically.
Was that, listen, we have the better roster, but they have Pat Mahomes. They have Andy Reid. Yes, Travis Kelce early in the game killed us, but he didn't do anything at the end of the game. He was not. We actually did a decent job
of adjusting.
Overall. Again, yeah, exactly. Sure. But I think Andy Reid, I mean, listen, they obviously designed that one play. That one play that Mahomes ran on, that was a design run. Mm-hmm. So that's Andy Reid. Like, Andy Reid called that. And, that drive was killer. Because 5 minutes, we get the ball back, we have another chance to come back. So that whole drive, they held the clock. We criticized Andy Reid back in the day, I remember, in a Super Bowl for poor time management. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe this was the opposite effect. Maybe this was Andy Reid learning from his mistakes. And he actually did a good job at the end of the game controlling that clock.
So I want to address this here. And there's so much I want to get into, and we're going to have a whole offseason to talk about Jalen Hurts. And then him. He is the guy. Big W is Hurts coming out, and the focus and grounded. So I want to read. This is from his postgame. I didn't watch the postgame press conferences, but I was just watching and reading up before the show. This is a quote directly from Jalen Hurts after the game. Obviously, we had a big-time goal in the end that we wanted to accomplish, and we came up short. I think the beautiful part about it is everyone experiences different pains, different agonies of life. But you decide if you want to learn from it. You decide if you want to use that to be a teachable moment. And I know what I'll do. I mean,
Giovanni asked him that.
Comments that he made in that press conference, that man, just like I said at the end of last season, that he was going to come back this year better and more focused. Well, you got to believe that Jalen Hurts is going to come back even more focused. It's hard to repeat going to the Super Bowl. There's no guarantees the Eagles make the Super Bowl next year. We have a super, super difficult schedule next year. But Jalen Hurts is going to be 10 times more laser focused next year, and he's going to learn from the mistakes. Now, the question is, will Nick Sirianni learn from his mistakes as well?
I mean, listen, I think that just speaks volumes to Hurts' character. I mean,
can I read another quote from him real quick? Sorry. This is the one I really wanted to read. You want to cherish these moments with the people that you've come so far with, he said. Your family, loved ones, teammates, peers, everyone that you do it with and do it for. I will say I'm proud of this team for everything that we've been able to overcome. I mean, how can you not love Jalen Hurts when he just lost the biggest game of his life, and they're the things he's saying after the game?
I mean, I think Jalen Hurts would be the first to tell you that he would probably take the loss on himself, the fumble. I mean,
absolutely.
The sky's the limit for this kid. 24 years old. I think yes, but I'm not ready to like have the bright future talk right now. I'm not, because I'm upset. I'm very upset at how the season ended. I'm upset that we didn't get an opportunity to see a Jalen Hurts come back. I'm upset that, all these things. I don't know how to feel, because I'm not hungover like you, Phil. I don't drink, but
I honestly didn't even drink that much, so I'm confused. And I think it's just the fact that I've just been so exhausted from the
tired.
Yeah, I'm tired, and I'm sore. My body hurts, and then after exhausting so much energy the last 3 days at my work, to have all the emotions and energy come out last night in 3-hour window, and I think it's a combination of it all.
It's tough,
I didn't get a great, comfortable night's sleep last night, knowing that the way the game ended, I tried to turn on post-game live for a few minutes after the game, and, honestly, I haven't watched the Comcast or NBC Sports post game live show much all year, and I'll be honest, it's not a great show. It's not a good quality show anymore. I'll be honest with you on that. But I mean, there's still. I know you don't want to have it, but what we've learned is that the future is bright for this team and this organization. We're going to lose so many pieces. Like, obviously, Shane Steichen is obviously already unofficially gone. Jonathan Gannon sounds like he's gone. We should probably move on from Clay, the special teams coach. We talked about special teams being a killer all year, and it was good. I said it like multiple times throughout the year. Could you win or lose a Super Bowl solely based on special teams? It's not the sole reason we lost yesterday, but special teams did play a major factor in the loss yesterday. So, I mean, there's going to be changes. Bradbury, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Cox, there's Hargrave. There's so many free agents on this team. But the future, even with all these changes that are going to happen, coaching and free agency, the future is still bright because you have Jalen Hurts leading the helm at the top. Yeah, I mean, honestly, George, I'm going to have to go back. I didn't have enough time this morning. I haven't even heard what Nick Sirianni said after the game. I didn't, like I said, I didn't watch any of the pressers. I will go back and catch as much of them as I can today so we could talk about them more. But I'm assuming based off of the way you say that, he did not say anything like that. What's that?
What's question 8?
What?
What was the question?
And my question is, Phil.
Oh, it said 8.
It's probably just is. Yeah, he's just saying why isn't Nick Sirianni making the same statements that Jalen Hurts is what he's saying. Again, I don't know what he said after the game, but it is what it is.
I mean, Nick Sirianni's the coach. He's not going to say the exact same things as Jalen Hurts. I don't think anybody's ever, at least I haven't. I think Nick Sirianni is loved by this team. He's a player's coach. I know a lot of our fans are partial to Nick Sirianni. I know Nick Sirianni across the league, though, is getting a lot of hate. A lot of other fans hate Nick Sirianni because of his, boisterous antics on the sideline, him having fun on the sideline. Like, some people are against that. They feel like, but, to me, that's the new NFL. I mean, I have no problem. We've had a show on that. We've talked about that. I think Nick Sirianni.
But what we're saying, but I did bring it up, a few minutes ago that maybe that was part of the problem. Just yesterday, I'm not saying that Nick Sirianni has to change, but how can he adjust next year if we get to this point, so that maybe he doesn't? I don't want to say. I think there's something to that. They were just a little too overconfident, especially in the second half after having a halftime lead. What was it, a 10-point lead at halftime or whatever it was? Maybe he didn't keep them grounded enough at halftime. Maybe he didn't use the right words to say, this game is not over. We got to keep the pedal to the metal. We talked about it all year. The Eagles had a propensity to build big leads and then let teams back into games. And it happened again, but this time it happened with Patrick Mahomes, which is why we lost versus pulling out a last-second win.
Okay, and if we're going to talk about Nick Sirianni and having the team grounded,
sure.
and at the end of the day, he is in charge of in charge of Shane Steichen, then why? Can I ask you a question? On that play where the fumble happened, that drive specifically, what was the play calling going on there? Like, to me, it was horrible. It was horrible. You're having a design run on a 3rd and 7.
There were some questionable play calling for sure yesterday. I think this is an interesting point. We're losing both our coordinators. Nick Sirianni or Shane Steichen and probably Jonathan Gannon. Should there? I mean, obviously Brian Johnson, the quarterback coach, is the favorite to be the offensive coordinator, and I agree with it. He probably deserves that opportunity. But do we need more of a Vic Fangio? I know we talked about Vic Fangio earlier, but do we need somebody like that? I saw a rumor on Facebook that Rex Ryan's coming out of retirement to go to be the defense coordinator at the Broncos, and I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with that situation. What I'm saying is, do we need somebody with that head coaching experience to be the right-hand man of Nick Sirianni? Whether he's the OC or the DC, do we need that experienced member of this team? Because there's not – the most experienced guys on our coaching staff are Jeff Stoutland pretty much. And Jeff Stoutland, I mean, he's going to be here for a long time, but I don't know if he has that kind of influence over the game plan. He's just focused on one or two specific tasks. Kyle, my man, I feel for you, man. There is literally no food. I haven't had breakfast yet. I always have breakfast before the show. There's literally no food in my house right now. But a cheesesteak does sound like a really good idea right now. Yeah, where was Miles Sanders? I think Miles Sanders got hurt. There was you wouldn't know it from the Fox report, but one of the beat reporters posted on Twitter, after the first drive that Miles Sanders headed back to the locker room, then he did come back out. He wasn't out there at all for the second drive. Then he was back out there for the third drive. Something might have happened. Maybe he needed to tweak something or fix his brace, or I don't know. Miles Sanders was not his best game or best way to end his career with the Eagles or ask for a contract extension from the Eagles. He did himself no favors there whatsoever.
I mean, going back to your original question, could we use, obviously, an experienced coach?
Yeah.
I absolutely think it can't hurt. I mean, there's obviously something missing there.
Yeah.
In the biggest game of these young guys' career, they lost. And listen, at the end of the day, it could have been either way. I mean, the game, it wasn't like we got blown out.
Yeah.
Eagles could have won the game. It was 35-35 going down the stretch. So, I mean, if you told me that we would be tied going into the fourth quarter of a Super Bowl, I think I'd be pretty damn happy about that.
Yeah.
But just having not having the opportunity to kind of finalize that and see something, maybe Hurts have his signature drive of his career and actually win the game.
Well, we did. He did. We did have a long signature drive, took the lead, and then we tied the game up with the 2-point conversion, and then it kind of goes back to the one Super Bowl against or the championship game when we lost against Arizona back in the McNabb era. Everyone says McNabb came up small. Well, McNabb actually led the game-winning drive, and then the defense came up short. Same thing kind of happened yesterday. Hurts had that big drive, and then the defense let Mahomes right back into the game, and then obviously the penalty and everything else. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah. Yeah, the running game wasn't an issue overall. I just still am kind of curious at the lack of Miles Sanders. I mean, 1,000-yard rusher. He was a big part of this team. He wasn't a part of the game yesterday. It's really
out.
What's that? He was, and we talked about that for a few weeks now, that he's been getting phased out a little bit. Kenneth Gainwell will probably be your lead running back next year. It just definitely seems like that's the way that's going to go.
I mean, yeah, it's just a damn shame that we didn't have an opportunity to, listen, I think at the end of the day, they used the running game the way they've used it all year. They used the balanced attack. Obviously, Hurts was a bigger part going back to earlier in the season. I mean, he looked great out there running. I mean, he really did. And we said that. I thought going into this game that would be what they would try to, they would use that to their advantage against the Chiefs, because it's hard to cover Hurts when he does those run-pass options. Mm-hmm. The thing is,
the running game, the whole offense, I mean, the fact that they were able to keep Mahomes off the field. But again, it's a tip of the cap to the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid that as little as they were on the field, they maximized every opportunity. No turnovers, no sacks on third downs. Let me look at this real quick here.
They were down at the half.
Yeah, I mean, they literally maximized their opportunities when necessary. The Chiefs did. And I think it really comes down to that. I mean, they punt it. I'm trying to see. They only punt it twice. The Eagles only punt it twice, but
we didn't stop Mahomes in the second half.
We never stopped Mahomes ever when we needed to, basically. In the crux of the game, when needed.
The only time we stopped him was when he got hurt. That play where, he got hurt. That was it.
Right at the end of the half, right?
That was at the end of the first half, yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you really got to look at that. And I agree. Tip the cap. Like, we want to blame our players. That's just what we do.
You got to find some reason to justify the loss. But we just got
we lost to a better team.
Well, I don't know about a better team, but we lost to three legends. I really think that their three legends are better than anybody on our team, but the rest of their team was nowhere near as good as our team going into it. But look, we all bash it, and I know Mark is not an Andy Reid guy, but Andy Reid is one of the greatest coaches of all time, won another Super Bowl now. That cements him as one of the greatest coaches of all time. He's been there, done that, been in the moment before. And his team, I talked about it all week. Didn't matter how far down they were going to get, we're never going to be out of the game. And I'll run through a brick wall for Jalen Hurts. But if I have to pick one quarterback to take over Jalen Hurts, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes 10 times out of 10. Because Patrick Mahomes has proven that he's one of the greatest of all time already.
Did you see Mahomes' interview when he was talking about Andy Reid?
No.
Like he almost cried. Like he basically said Andy Reid is the reason why he is Pat Mahomes. Like now, like I mean, what else can you say about that?
Right.
You use the term quarterback whisperer. I mean, what he's done with quarterbacks that basically weren't expected to ever be great in the NFL, and even Donovan McNabb. Donovan McNabb wasn't expected to be great. Hey, shit, we all booed it. We booed the pick. We wanted Ricky Williams, but like at the end of the day, Andy Reid deserves a lot of credit. I have a question. Do you think he retires now that he won 2 Super Bowls?
Not yet. Not yet, no. I mean, maybe eventually. Maybe it's sooner than it was originally. But I don't think he retires yet. Unless that's why Eric Bieniemy hasn't gotten a head coaching job, because he's the heir apparent in Kansas City. I don't know. But, yeah, Andy Reid's a legend. And it comes out last night. I mean, honestly, he just I absolutely agree with this. Our successes are built on his principles. There's still a lot of Andy Reid influences in this team and the way this organization is run. And I think that is for sure thing. Look, it is what it is. So you know what's scary is that we talk about Patrick Mahomes is already one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And we talk about how young Jalen Hurts is. He's only 24 years old. Well, Patrick Mahomes is only 27 years old. I mean, Patrick Mahomes plays like a grizzled veteran, plays like he's been in the league for 15 years, but he's 27 years old.
Pat Mahomes could actually rival, like, I know Brady's at
Tom Brady, and
he's at the pinnacle, Brady, but you would never think, like, before Mahomes that anybody could even come close to that. And now it's like, dude, it very easily
about it. He's got 2 Super Bowl wins. What did Brady win? 5 or 6? 6, right? Or 5?
6.
I mean, he's 27 years old. You got to think he's going to play 10 or 15 more years. And he's got a chance to rival that. I mean, he's that good. He's that, and it's crazy that he's that young. Like, team. If I was a free agent player, I wouldn't want to go to the AFC. I wouldn't want to have to go to the AFC West. Like Sean Payton going to the Browns. Why would you want to have to go up against him every single year? And your chances of getting to the Super Bowl go through Kansas City every year.
Can we talk about our disdain for Sean Payton?
I don't want to talk.
Did you hear him though?
No.
He said he almost guaranteed that a special teams gaffe would be the reason the Eagles lost. Now, I'm not saying that's the only reason, but for him to say that in the beginning before the game started, like, pretty prophetic.
Right. Yeah, well, special teams, we talked about it all year. Special teams was going to bite us in the ass at some point. And the line drive punt and the big return from Kadarius Toney, set up one of those late scores. Everything you're saying here, he's evolved. His game prep is second to none. There's nothing I can disagree with there on Andy Reid. Andy Reid's a legend, first ballot Hall of Famer. Whenever it is he decides to retire, he's good. Just put his plaque in at the Hall of Fame right now. But special teams, we talked about it all year that Aaron Sipos wasn't a great punter. He gets hurt. You have Brett Kern come in, and he wasn't great. He wasn't awful, but he wasn't great. Coverage has been bad all year. Returning has been an issue all year. Covey did have a really nice return. But then that play, I mean, it really breaks my heart. They did not have Tyreek Hill anymore at Kansas City. You had Kadarius Toney, and you have Juju Smith-Schuster. Two guys cast off from previous teams that had no influence, like minor effect on their team all year. And they came back to bite us. Juju had a bunch of big catches in the second half. Toney had the touchdown, which can we get to those two touchdown catches? Toney had one, and was it Sky Moore had the other? There was some bad defensive route running by Avonte Maddox covering those two. It was the same exact play on opposite sides of the field, in, out, and wide open both times for touchdowns. And you can see it happening in real time. You're like, oh, he's going to do this play.
We talk about how good Avonte Maddox is, and we praised him and raved about how
Bradbury had his worst moment on the last drive, and Maddox had some really bad moments in otherwise what was a really great season.
But on the flip side, can we at least talk about the positive that I saw in the game? The other positive? Sure. Eagles wide receivers balling out in a Super Bowl, two of them.
Actually, that's great. You just brought something up there. All right. Yeah, Smith, Brown, amazing wide receivers, right? But can I actually say that I have an issue with the wide receivers? The problem is, and you have two so good top-heavy wide receivers in Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, Zach Pascal, and Quez Watkins as your 3-4. The problem is they go to – well, and you know what? The drop by Quez Watkins notwithstanding, because it was a big drop. He should have caught that, whatever. But the problem is they never go to those guys. I think there was 4 targets combined to those two wide receivers yesterday, 3 combined catches. And that was a lot of targets. Normally you go games where neither of those guys even get the ball thrown their way. The problem is defenses can zone in on A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith so much that, they're so good they still catch the ball when they're double covered. They go up and high point the ball really well, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact that they always are force feeding just those two guys, there's never – it's like when we talk Sixers and Matisse Thybulle, who unfortunately is not with the team anymore. We haven't even talked that, the loss of Matisse Thybulle. When he was on the court, you always said, well, we're playing 4-on-5 on offense. Well, when you've got Quez Watkins and Zach Pascal on the field, and the defenses know 99% of the time the ball is not going to go to them. It's like you're playing 10-on-11. It's like you're playing 9-on-11 sometimes, because the defense doesn't have to worry about those two guys. And I think there might be something to that. I don't know. It's something that popped up in my head last night, but it might be nothing. But if there was a threat that Quez Watkins could make a play, that you have to think about him as a defense, it might free up A.J. Brown to have more space to open up to catch a big play. Dallas Goedert might have more space to run free. If Zach Pascal, when he's out there, he's basically out there to block, and the defense knows that. Utilize those guys. So you got to almost upgrade your third and fourth wide receiver to a bigger threat. Yeah, it might take 100 yards away from A.J. Brown by the end of the season, but if you have a bigger threat there, it might make the offense overall more dangerous because there's a threat. There is no threat with those two wide receivers.
Well, you got 2 first-round picks, so I wouldn't be surprised if they take another wide receiver in the first round.
They're not going to take a wide receiver in the first round.
No, with the 31st pick.
They're going to draft a wide receiver at some point.
I wouldn't be surprised with this team's MO.
No.
All I'm saying.
This is a great thing. We didn't talk about this. Could the field conditions have affected the pass rush? You saw a lot of guys slipping and sliding. It's again, I was before the show I was going to bring up field conditions, and I'm like, maybe I won't. 'Cause I don't want to make excuses. I don't want to blame the refs. I don't want to blame the field conditions. But the field conditions were atrocious last night. For a Super Bowl, to have players slipping and sliding that much because of all the paint on the field. You can blame it, but it also was a problem for the Chiefs too. So I don't want to use it as the reason we lost, but it could have been why the pass rush couldn't get home.
It was bad.
It was really bad.
I think sometimes, like I said, I'm going back to the original thing. we want to complain about our pass rush, but on the opposite spectrum, you have to give some credit to the Chiefs' offensive line. Like, maybe we undervalued how good the Chiefs' offense. Everyone bragged about how good our line is, and we know they are because they didn't get a sack. Chiefs didn't get a sack.
They got one sack unofficially.
Well, an unofficial sack.
Yeah, when he forced
I'm saying they didn't get a regular sack.
They had
really
two listed here. Maybe they did get one because they got 2 sacks listed here, unless both of them were running Hurts out of bounds.
They didn't pressure Hurts, let's put it that way, but they did keep him contained at certain points, and especially in the second half. That's why the Eagles only scored 11 points in the second half, or 10 points, whatever we scored, 11, because they had the 2-point conversion. But the Chiefs' offensive line, like, I think we undervalued them. When we check marked and we looked at both offensive lines and we said, obviously the Eagles have an offensive line that has 2 kind of Hall of Famers, probably first ballot, Kelsey and Johnson. But the Chiefs' offensive line, you got to give them credit. They stopped our defensive line. Like, nobody on our team made plays, but I have to say that I was shocked. Mm-hmm. I thought for sure that we would at least have Mahomes running for his life, or, at least, having to change his game plan because of our pass rush. And it was just not there. I kept waiting. I kept saying, when is Reddick going to get home?
I was so confident that Reddick was going to have 2-3 sacks yesterday.
Reddick had his hand on Mahomes on that one play, and Mahomes ran, scooted out, ran for 20 yards. Like, it was literally like, I'm watching it, and I'm like, I almost felt like, those times when you used to watch Donovan McNabb and Randall make those plays, and, like, a guy would be just about ready to sack him, and next thing you know, he's, like, out and making, the drive extended.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still
out, dude.
I don't know, man. I'm just a lot of today. We'll continue talking all week probably about this game, and maybe we'll get more into maybe I'll even think differently once the emotions of the loss, like, we talked about it. Expectations change, and once we got to the World Series with the Phillies, we were heartbroken that they didn't win the World Series. But then as the weeks went by, we kind of, we accepted it as a successful season. We were able to praise things and think differently once it calmed down. But the same thing happens now. After the Eagles lose, like, my heart's broken still right now. The frustrations are still there. Tomorrow, I'll feel a little differently. Next week, I'll feel a little differently. 3 weeks from now, I'll feel a little differently. We'll be able to more digest this kind of information a little bit more. Yeah, absolutely agree. I still think that this wide receiver thing, George, we're going to have this wide receiver conversation more in the offseason for sure, because I think you don't need more than 3 wide receivers, but you need the threat, or you're playing in a disadvantage on the defense or against the defense. I don't know, Jason.
So once again, going into the game, we talked about the Eagles having a clear-cut advantage on the wide receivers. And I know I know he didn't specifically make a play, MVS.
Right.
But I did mention, like, the fact that don't downplay the Chiefs wide receivers as if they're nothing. Because the good thing about Pat Mahomes is that he spreads the ball out. They have multiple threats. They have guys that can get it done. Maybe they don't have an A.J. Brown. They don't have, a Devonta Smith, but they don't need it when you have Pat Mahomes. And maybe that's where, we sometimes say, well, adding A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith actually helped Jalen Hurts. And it did. Nobody can argue that. He had his best season. We made it to the Super Bowl getting weapons. But to your point, is having just 2 guys enough? You have to have at least somebody else that can, like, as you said, be a threat where you're not taking away or having guys double team or having a team scheme and basically totally take you out.
It's like, again, I use an analogy in another basketball analogy. It's like when you've got a 25% 3-point shooter on your opposing team, you let that guy you let Giannis Antetokounmpo take 3-point shots. If he wants to if you're going to let him beat you that way, You do it. If the Eagles, the Chiefs thought like, yeah, we don't have to worry about Quez Watkins. If he catches a deep ball, fine, we'll accept that because we're going to focus in on their weapon. It's not that you have to get them the ball, but the threat that they can make a big play has to be there. Yeah, I mean, the wide receivers played a big role yesterday, though, Mark. The Chiefs wide receivers definitely played a big role yesterday. So, I don't know. A lot of this is just emotion and frustration and sadness, Jason. I mean, it really is because, look, we could use this as our conversation to wrap this show up here. There is no guarantees that the Eagles get back to this point next year. It is very, very difficult to make the Super Bowl in the NFL. That's why it's so crazy that certain teams like the Chiefs make it year in and year out. It's tough. I mean, you look at it. Last year's Super Bowl, the Bengals, they're still a great team. They came up short again. You know, Eagles aren't going to struggle to make the playoffs next year, but there's just no guarantees. And I think that's what it is. And for the city, I feel bad for the city of Philadelphia, the sports fans of this city, for all the heartbreak we've had to go through in the last 6 months, sports-wise. And I feel it. I feel it just like everyone else does because there are no guarantees. And, you know, it's tough when you get this close, and I don't want to blame it, but this close, and then that little holding penalty stops you from having that chance at the end of the game. It's heartbreaking. It's legitly heartbreaking.
Yeah, I was dreading this show actually, but I got to be honest with you, it feels good to get stuff off your chest.
Yeah, I legitimately thought about not doing the show today because I could have used the extra hour of sleep, and I don't know. I didn't want to have to go through this, but I think it's been very therapeutic to an extent as well.
It has, definitely.
Yeah. Do you got anything else to add? Because if not, I think we're just going to wrap it up a few minutes early here.
I think you need a break, dude. You need a reset.
Well, I need a reset.
I got to go to work.
I got to go to work. We're filming Fairway to Heaven tonight. You know, for the Genesis Invitational. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day. Another busy day in the pizza shop. It don't stop for me. It never stops.
No.
Kyle, good for you, man. You should. You deserve one, my man. You deserve one. I wish I could go have one, but I got to go to work. So I don't think that would be very appropriate. Anyway, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. If you're watching this show on replay, make sure you hit the like and the subscribe button and share this show out with everybody you got. If you drop your comments on the replay, I will go back and read them. You know, you can hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, anywhere. I'll read them all. I greatly appreciate everybody tuning in. This was just the venting show. Maybe tomorrow I'll come in with more firm thoughts. I don't know. I still might just be disappointed tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see how I feel tomorrow. I'm not really sure. But again, like and subscribe. You know, exactly. These comments flying in here. EAGLES. As always, go Birds. I still bleed green. For everything we're upset, we're sad. We bleed green, guys. And we're all there together. And thank you, Mark. Appreciate the kind words. We'll wrap it up. We'll be back tomorrow. Again, I'll be live tonight, 7 o'clock. I've got a special guest join me for Fairway to Heaven. Len, he's a legend in the fantasy and writing world. So tune in 7 o'clock tonight. And we'll be back tomorrow morning right here on Trending in the AM, 8:30 a.m. Hey, guys, it's a tough morning, but it's still Go Birds. Go frickin' Birds.
And Philadelphia has it.
Holding gets around in front.
Oh, he's got to head to it.
Set